Must be hard driving strangers around all day, finding their destinations while you go nowhere yourself. The ride was supposed to take 12 minutes. 12 minutes from the hotel to the restaurant. That was all. But in those 12 minutes, Serena Voss decided to make a man feel like nothing. She mocked his accent. She laughed at his clothes. She told him he would never be anything more than a driver. And when she got out of that car, she slammed the door so hard the mirror shook. She never looked back. She never said sorry. She never even learned his name. But 3 weeks later, she walked into the most important job interview of her life, sat down across the polished mahogany table, looked up at the man in the chair, and the Uber driver reached up and took off his cap. "Miss Voss, it is good to meet you." Serena Voss opened her mouth and screamed, and because the man she had humiliated in the back of a beat-up sedan was Ronan Hale, founder of Hale Global, a company worth $4, $3 billion, and the man who would decide whether she ever worked in Atlanta again. Now, before I tell you what happened in that room, check that subscribe button at the bottom of your screen. If you love stories where the humble rise and the proud fall, hit it right now and turn on notifications because the payback in this story, it is going to be legendary. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. She had never been told no. That was the problem. Atlanta, a city that rewards ambition, a city that has seen 1,000 people climb from nothing to everything, and a city that has watched just as many fall. Serena Voss knew how to climb, and she had been climbing her whole life. 32 years old, sharp, beautiful in the way that commands attention without asking for it, the kind of woman who walked into a room and immediately calculated who mattered and who didn't. She had grown up middle class in Buckhead, private school, tennis lessons. A father who told her every morning that she was exceptional. She believed him. She believed it so completely that somewhere along the way, believing in herself became something darker. It became contempt for everyone she believed was beneath her. She worked in marketing, senior brand strategist at a mid-sized firm called Apex Innovations. Good salary, good title, but not good enough. Not for Serena. She had her eyes on something bigger. Summit Alliance, the most powerful brand consulting firm in the Southeast, and clients that read like a Forbes list, a reputation built over 20 years of excellence. Summit didn't post job openings. You had to be invited. And 3 weeks ago, Serena had been invited. She didn't know how it happened. An email from their head of talent acquisition, a name, a date, an address. She had stared at that email for 10 full minutes before she screamed into her pillow. This was it. This was the door she had been waiting for. She spent 2 weeks preparing, researching, rehearsing answers in front of her mirror, buying a new suit, getting her hair done at the most expensive salon in Midtown. She was going to walk into that interview and own it just like she owned every room she entered. That was the plan. But first, she had to get through a Tuesday afternoon in late October, and a 12-minute ride she would never forget. It started with traffic. A conference had ended early at the Omni Hotel downtown. Serena needed to be across town in 45 minutes. Her usual driver was booked, her second option canceled. She opened the app. 4 minutes away, she confirmed. The car that pulled up was not what she expected. A 2018 Honda Accord, clean but old. One small crack in the passenger side mirror, an air freshener shaped like a pine tree hanging from the rear view. Serena looked at it the way someone looks at a meal they didn't order. She got in without speaking. The driver glanced at her in the rear view mirror. "Good evening, heading to Peachtree Road." His voice was calm, deep, a slight accent. West African, she thought, as though she couldn't have told you which country if her life depended on it. "Yes," she said flatly. She was already on her phone. He pulled into traffic smoothly, not too fast, not too slow. The kind of driver who has been doing this long enough to know that passengers want to arrive in one piece and in silence. The car smelled clean. A small bottle of water sat in the cup holder beside her. A phone charger coiled neatly on the back seat. Serena noticed none of it. She was composing an email. 5 minutes passed. Then traffic stopped. A dead halt on I-75. Brake lights as far as the eye could see. Serena looked up from her phone. "What is this?" "Accident ahead," the driver said. "I can take the surface roads if you prefer. Might add 4 minutes, but we will keep moving. 4 minutes? Serena's voice sharpened. I don't have 4 minutes. The highway's not moving at all right now. The surface route is faster in these conditions. Then why are we still sitting here? The driver paused, patient. I was waiting for your preference. My preference is to not be late. Figure it out. He nodded, changed lanes smoothly, navigated toward the exit. Serena went back to her phone, but the traffic on the surface roads was heavier than expected. A light malfunctioned at an intersection. They sat for 3 full signal cycles. Serena's patience, what little she had, ran out. This is ridiculous. You said this route was faster. The signal malfunction is new. It was not like this when I came through here earlier. So, you gave me bad information. I gave you the best information I had at the time. That is not good enough. Silence. The driver kept his eyes on the road. Where are you even from? Serena said suddenly, not curious, dismissive. I grew up in Houston, but I have lived in Atlanta for your accent. Where are you really from? A beat. My parents are from Ghana. I was born here. Serena made a sound, the kind of sound that was not quite a laugh, the kind designed to make a person feel small without technically saying anything offensive. The driver said nothing. How long have you been driving Uber? She asked. A while. Is this all you do? It is what I am doing today. Another dismissive sound from Serena. Must be hard, she said. Driving strangers around all day, taking directions from people, never really going anywhere yourself. The driver glanced at her briefly in the mirror. His expression did not change. Some days are harder than others, he said quietly. I could never do it, Serena continued as if he had not spoken. I need to be building something. I need forward momentum, not just fing to their destinations while you go nowhere yourself. She looked out the window at the stalled traffic. No offense. The way she said it made clear she intended every offense. The driver was quiet for a moment. Then he said simply, None taken. They rode in silence for the remaining 4 minutes. When he pulled up to the restaurant, Serena was already gathering her bag before the car fully stopped. She got out and did not say thank you, did not say goodbye. She slammed the door hard. The passenger mirror rattled. She walked into the restaurant without looking back, and the driver sat there for a moment, engine idling. He looked at the door she had disappeared through. His expression was unreadable. Then he reached up and adjusted his cap, put the car in drive, and disappeared into the Atlanta night. He could have said something. He chose not to. That choice would cost her everything. His name was Ronan, 38 years old, 6'1", lean and deliberate in the way of men who have learned that stillness is its own kind of strength. His skin was deep ebony with a warm undertone that caught light like polished wood, a strong jaw, high cheekbones, and eyes that were calm and watchful, the kind of eyes that see everything and react to nothing. He wore what he always wore when he drove, dark jeans, a plain gray long-sleeve shirt, and a black baseball cap pulled low. No jewelry, no watch, no indication of anything beyond an ordinary man doing an ordinary job. That was entirely intentional. Ronan was the founder and chairman of Hale Global, a brand strategy and investment firm headquartered in Atlanta with offices in Houston, New York, and London. Current valuation $4.3 billion. He had built it over 14 years, starting from a single client and a laptop on his father's kitchen table in Houston. His father had driven a taxi for 11 years while building an import business on the side. Ronan had watched him do it, had watched people dismiss him, had watched his father absorb every slight with quiet dignity, and then go home and work on his business until midnight. That image never left Ronan. It shaped everything. 6 months before that October evening, Ronan had fired his head of human resources, not for incompetence, not for dishonesty, for cruelty. 3 separate employees had submitted anonymous complaints. His HR director, a man named Harlan Croft, had been systematically screening out job candidates based on their names, their accents, their zip codes, not their qualifications. Had investigated personally. The evidence was clear and damning. He terminated Harlan Croft on a Wednesday morning, But the experience opened something in Ronan's mind that he could not close again. He began to wonder how deep it went. Not just in his HR department and in the wider world his company operated in the professional culture he was part of. He wondered how many people who sat across polished tables and spoke beautifully about values and excellence and human dignity treated the invisible people around them with contempt the moment they believed no one of consequence was watching. He could not send investigators. People perform for investigators. He had to see it himself. So he started driving. Not on a schedule, not every day. Occasionally, when the mood and the calendar allowed, he would take a shift, put on his cap, and drive. He had been doing it for 3 months. Most people were decent, tired executives who fell asleep within 2 minutes of getting in, young professionals who said please and thank you and meant it, families who asked about his day and actually listened to the answer. Some were indifferent. They barely registered his existence, which was its own kind of data. And a few, a very specific revealing few, showed him something ugly, the kind of ugly that only surfaces when someone is certain they are superior. Serena Voss had been one of those few, but she was different from the others. Because when Ronan got home that night and reviewed his upcoming schedule, he found something interesting. Hale Global was in active discussions with Summit Alliance, a brand consulting firm they were considering acquiring. Ronan had agreed to personally conduct final interviews for the senior roles that would manage the merged operation. He opened the candidate list, third name from the top, Serena Voss, Senior Brand Strategist, Apex Innovations. Atlanta sat with that for a long moment. He did not call his assistant. He did not flag her file. He simply closed his laptop, adjusted his cap on the hook by the door, and went to bed. Patience, his father always said, is just faith with its eyes open. Ronan was a very patient man. She had prepared for every question. She had not prepared for this. The Summit Alliance occupied the top 3 floors of a glass tower on Peachtree Street. Everything about the building communicated one thing: power. The lobby had no cluttered reception desk, just a long wall of frosted glass with the company name etched in brushed silver. A single elevator, a single button. You either belonged there or you did not. Serena belonged there. Or so she told herself as she rode the elevator up on the morning of her interview 3 weeks later. She had done everything right. Navy suit, single pearl earrings, a leather portfolio containing 12 months of campaign analytics, 3 detailed case studies, and a mock brand strategy she had built specifically for a hypothetical Summit client profile. She had researched every senior partner, memorized career histories, prepared questions that would signal she was a peer walking in, not a candidate hoping to be selected. She was ready. The elevator opened into a reception area that smelled of cool air and leather. A precise young assistant led her to a waiting room. "Mr. Hale will be with you shortly." "Thank you," Serena said. She sat down and reviewed her notes. "Mr. Hale?" She had not been told the full name of her interviewer. Alara Kane, Summit's head of talent acquisition, had mentioned only that the final interview would be conducted by the senior partner overseeing the firm's most significant new strategic relationship. Serena had assumed it was one of Summit's founding partners. She had profiles prepared on all of them. The door opened. A man walked in. Dark jeans, a crisp white shirt, collar open, no tie, a black baseball cap that he was in the process of removing as he stepped through the door. Serena's eyes moved upward from the cap to the hand, removing it to the face beneath, and the world tilted. She knew that jaw. She knew those eyes. She knew the particular quality of stillness in that face. The cap came off completely and Serena Voss opened her mouth. And the sound that came out was not a word. It was a scream, short, sharp, involuntary. The kind that escapes before the conscious mind can catch and contain it. The kind you make when the ground opens beneath your feet without warning. Ronan set his cap on the corner of the conference table. He sat down across from her. His expression was exactly what it had been in the rear-view mirror 3 weeks ago on I-75. Calm, unreadable, patient. "Ms. Voss," he said, "it is good to meet you." Serena's mouth was still open. She closed it, swallowed. Her portfolio was pressed against her chest like armor. She started. "Please." He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit down. Serena sat. Her hands were not entirely steady. I believe you prepared a brand strategy presentation, said, and glancing at her portfolio. I would like to hear it. Serena looked at him. He looked back. Mr. Hale, she said carefully, I think we may have met before. Have we? His tone gave nothing away. I think I was a passenger in your presentation, Ms. Voss. He opened his notepad, clicked his pen. We have 45 minutes. She had prepared for every question except the only one that mattered. Serena Voss was a professional. Whatever storm was moving through her in that moment, and a significant storm was moving through her, she locked it behind her eyes and began. She opened her portfolio. She presented, and her presentation was excellent. Genuinely, undeniably excellent. She had done the work. Her market analysis was sharp and current. Her case studies were specific and honest, that including one where her campaign had underperformed and what she had learned from it. Her mock brand strategy for the hypothetical summit client was creative, grounded in real consumer data, and showed genuine strategic depth. Under any other circumstances, in any other room, she would have walked out of this building with an offer before the elevator reached the lobby. But these were not any other circumstances. Listened with complete attention. He asked questions, intelligent, precise questions that revealed he understood her field at a level that surprised her. He was not a figurehead sitting in on an interview. He was someone who had built a brand empire from nothing and knew exactly what excellence looked like and what it didn't. He pushed back on two of her core assumptions. She defended them. He pressed harder. She held her ground with evidence. He nodded, made notes, did not reveal whether he was satisfied or not. 45 minutes passed. He closed his notepad, set down his pen. Thank you, Ms. Voss. Your strategy work is impressive. Serena exhaled slowly. Thank you. A pause that lasted just a moment too long. I want to ask you something, Ronan said, outside the formal interview structure. Of course. If you were assembling a senior leadership team, a team that would represent your brand directly to major clients at the highest level, what qualities would matter most to you and the people you selected? Serena answered without hesitation. She had prepared for this exact type of question. Competence above everything, strategic thinking, strong communication, the ability to stay composed when the pressure is highest. Character set a pause she had not prepared for. Yes, absolutely. Character. How do you assess character? He asked. In a professional setting, references track record how someone behaves when a project goes wrong and the stakes are real and outside a professional setting. Ronan continued, how do you assess someone's character when there are no professional stakes? When they believe no one of consequence is watching? The room was completely quiet. Serena looked at him. He looked at her. I think, she said carefully, that is when people show exactly who they are. Ronan nodded slowly. I agree completely. He stood, extended his hand across the table. We will be in touch, Miss Voss. Serena stood, shook his hand. But she walked to the elevator. She pressed the button. She stared at her own reflection in the polished silver doors. And she did not look away. She had already told herself it was over. She was wrong about that too. Serena went home. She changed out of her suit, sat on her couch, stayed there for a long time. She replayed the ride, every single word she had said, the accent comment, the Ghana comment, fing their destinations while you go nowhere yourself. She pressed her palms against her closed eyes. She had said those things to Ronan Hale, founder of Hale Global, a company worth $4.3 billion, the man who held the power to determine whether Summit Alliance, and by extension, her career moved forward or stalled permanently. She reached for her phone 3 times to call Alara Kane and withdraw her application. 3 times she put it back down. What would she even say? She went to bed that night with the quiet certainty that it was over. 2 days passed. On the 3rd morning, her phone rang. Alara Kane. Serena let it ring 4 times before she answered. Serena, good morning. Good morning, Alara. I wanted to reach out personally. Mr. Hale has completed his final round of interviews and made his recommendation to the partners. Serena closed her eyes. I understand. He recommended you. Silence. Complete silence. I'm sorry, Serena said. He recommended you for the senior brand director position. The partners have reviewed his recommendation and they are aligned. We would like to extend you a formal offer. Serena sat very still on the edge of her bed. I don't understand, she said quietly. He said your strategic work was among the strongest he had reviewed in 3 years, that you have genuine talent and that genuine talent deserves a real platform. Serena's throat tightened. He said that he did. He also asked if you would be willing to meet with him briefly before making your decision informally. No pressure in either direction. When? Tomorrow morning. His office. 10 o'clock. Serena looked at the wall across from her bed. I will be there, she said. She walked in expecting judgment. What she received was far harder to carry. Ronan's personal office was nothing like the summit interview room. It was warm walls lined with books that had clearly been read. Inot displayed a worn leather armchair in the corner with a side table and a lamp, a window that looked out over Atlanta's skyline, the morning light coming in soft and unhurried. He was already there when Serena arrived. No cap, no gray shirt, a simple dark suit, no tie, just the man behind his desk with 2 cups of coffee already poured. He gestured to the chair across from him. She sat. He slid one of the cups toward her. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then Serena said, Why? Ronan looked at her steadily. Why did I recommend you? Yes, because you are talented. That is real. It does not disappear because of a bad afternoon. Serena looked at the coffee cup in her hands. I was cruel to you, she said. The words sat in the room like something solid. Yes, I said things designed to make you feel small. I made assumptions about you based on nothing real. Yes, and you still recommended me for the most significant role of my career. Was quiet for a moment. I have been driving occasionally for 3 months, he said, watching how people treat those they believe are beneath them. Delivery drivers, parking attendants, janitors, people who have been made invisible by the world they move through. He paused. Most people are decent. Some are genuinely kind in a way that costs them nothing but means something real to the person receiving it. And people like me, Serena said it was not a question. People like you, Ronan said carefully, reveal something not necessarily about who they are permanently, but about who they are when they believe the moment has no consequences. Serena absorbed that. I don't say this to cause you pain, Ronan continued. I say it because I believe you have been sitting with it since the moment you saw my face in that interview room, and I think the discomfort you have been carrying is not shame about being caught. I think it is something more honest than that. She looked at him directly. What do you think it is? I think it is the recognition that the person in that car was not who you want to be. The room held that quietly for a moment. Outside the window, Atlanta moved through its morning. Is that right? Ronan asked. Serena set her coffee down. Yes, she said. That is exactly right. Then tell me something. Where does it come from? The contempt, because it is learned. No one is born with it. She was quiet for a long moment. When she answered, she was not performing. She was thinking out loud in the way people only do when they have stopped protecting themselves. I grew up being told I was exceptional. She said every day by my father, by my school, by every environment I moved through. And somewhere along the way, exceptional became a ranking system. If I was at the top, other people had to be lower. That was the only way it made sense. She paused. I stopped seeing people as people. I started seeing them as positions on a ladder. Nodded slowly. My father drove a taxi for 11 years. He said while he was building his import business on the side. People treated him the way you treated me regularly without a second thought. And he used to say every time it happened without fail, he used to say, that is their poverty, not mine. Serena's eyes filled. She blinked it back. Han, he was right, Ronan said. But the thing about that kind of poverty is that it can be cured if the person carrying it is willing to see it clearly. He reached into his desk drawer and slid a folder across the surface toward her. The offer is real. The role is real. The team you would be leading is exceptional, and they deserve a leader who sees them. Serena opened the folder. Below the formal offer letter on a separate sheet was a single handwritten line. How you treat the invisible is who you are. That is the standard at Hale Global. Ronan said it applies to everyone in this building from the night cleaning crew to the board of directors. No exceptions. Serena read the line twice. Then she closed the folder. I will have your answer by Friday, she said. She stood, extended her hand. He shook it. She walked to the door, stopped, turned back. Mr. Hale in the car, when I said those things to you? She held his gaze. I am sorry. Not because of this job, not because you turned out to be who you are, because it was wrong. It would have been wrong regardless of who you were. Looked at her for a moment. I know, he said simply. That is why I recommended you. The offer was the easy part. The harder question was what kind of person she would become. Serena did not go home after the meeting. She drove to the Omni Hotel. She went inside and sat in the lobby for a long time. She watched the doors, watched the drivers pull up outside and wait without complaint, the bellman moving luggage through the revolving doors, and the valet taking keys with a nod and a yes, sir, and a thank you. She watched the way guests moved past them. Some did not look at all. Some handed over keys the way you drop something in a trash can. Some spoke to them in a tone that communicated without a single explicit word that they were furniture. Serena watched all of it, and for the first time she saw it not from the inside of the contempt, but from the outside. She saw what it looked like. She sat there for nearly 2 hours. Then she drove to her office at Apex Innovations. She called her team into the conference room, all 7 of them. She stood at the head of the table and she did not have a presentation or a strategy deck or a quarterly update. She said simply, I owe some of you an apology. The room went completely still, and she did not explain what had happened with Ronan. That was not the point, and it was not their business. She told them that she had been leading in a way that prioritized output over people, that she had confused high standards with coldness, that she had made people feel like instruments instead of human beings. That ends now, she said. Starting today, one of her team members, a young woman named Mira, who had been on the team for 8 months and had never once voluntarily raised her eyes in a meeting, looked up and smiled. It was a small smile, cautious but real. That small, cautious smile did something to Serena, something she could not have fully articulated, something that felt like a door opening in a room she had kept locked for a very long time. On Friday morning, she emailed Alara Kane. 2 words, I accept. She gave her notice at Apex Innovations that afternoon. 3 weeks later, she walked through the lobby of Hale Global's Atlanta headquarters for her first day as senior brand director. She arrived 40 minutes early. She introduced herself to Marcus, the parking attendant, and asked how long he had been working there. She introduced herself to the 2 security guards at the front desk, to the woman named Gloria, who managed the executive floor cleaning at 5 o'clock in the morning before anyone else arrived. She learned their names. She wrote them down. She kept the list. The road does not care who you are. It only reveals who you choose to become. 6 months after Serena Voss joined Hale Global, she led the brand strategy for their East Coast expansion. The campaign ran across digital, print, and broadcast. It was precise, bold, and human in a way that the industry had not expected from a firm known primarily for its financial scale. It was covered in Forbes, Fast Company, and the Atlanta Business Chronicle. The headline in Fast Company read, Hale Global's new voice knows exactly what it wants to say. Ronan saw it from his desk on a Tuesday morning. He read it twice. Then he leaned back in his chair and looked out at Atlanta through the floor-to-ceiling window. He thought about his father, about 11 years of early mornings and late nights, and people who looked at a man behind a steering wheel and saw nothing worth acknowledging, about the way his father had absorbed every one of those moments without becoming them. That is their poverty, not mine. He picked up his phone and called Houston, and his father answered on the second ring. I read about your new brand director, his father said before could speak. The old man still read every article written about his son, every single one. She is sharp. She is, Ronan said. What changed her? Ronan was quiet for a moment. She looked in a mirror, he said, and she did not look away. His father made a sound of quiet satisfaction. Your grandfather used to say, his father began, and smiled because he knew what was coming. A man who is kind only to the powerful, Ronan said along with him, is not kind at all. He is merely strategic. His father laughed, the warm, unhurried laugh of a man who had earned his peace. You remember, his father said. I always remember, Ronan said. They talked for a while longer about nothing urgent and about family and weather and a restaurant in Houston his father wanted to try. When they hung up, Ronan sat for a moment in the quiet of his office. Outside, Atlanta moved through its afternoon, taxis and ride shares and delivery vans threading through the streets of the city. An invisible workforce keeping everything running, keeping the powerful on schedule, carrying the world on their backs without credit or ceremony. Thought about all the people who moved through that city every day without being seen, and he thought about the ones who chose to see them. That was the difference he had come to believe. Not wealth, not talent, not ambition. The simple daily choice to see the people in front of you. As for Serena Voss, she kept the offer letter, the one with the handwritten line at the bottom. She had it framed by a small print shop on Auburn Avenue. It hung on the wall of her office at Hale Global directly across from her desk. The first thing she saw every morning when she sat down, the last thing she saw before she left at night. How you treat the invisible is who you are. She never forgot it, not once, not for a single day. There is a lesson older than money, older than cities, older than the roads that carry us from place to place. It says this, you cannot know who is watching. You cannot know the name beneath the cap. You cannot know the weight a person carries beneath ordinary clothes on an ordinary afternoon. All you can know is how you choose to treat them, and that choice is the truest mirror you will ever look into. Serena Voss looked into that mirror, and she did not flinch from what she saw. She changed. That is the rarest kind of courage. Not the courage to fight, not the courage to climb, the courage to stop, to look honestly at yourself, and to become someone better. The driver who said nothing, the founder who gave a second chance, the woman who took it with both hands. 3 people, 1 road, 1 lesson, and fate never forgets. If this story moved your heart, subscribe and hit that notification bell because every tale has a lesson.